Got it. Hi, I'm Sally Glass and welcome to episode 153 of Art This Week. In this week's episode, we visit the Centraltrak resident studios of Franziska, Lamprecht and Hajoe, Moderegger. They conducted a performance of their work 100 meters behind the future for Centraltrak's current exhibition, Co-Recreating Spaces. Now for Art This Week.
It's a tour which you can take as a passenger in a car, and when you're taking that tour you're being confronted with two realities happening simultaneously in front of you. One's on a screen of like a smart device, a tablet device, and simultaneously with a reality which is around you in the windscreen of the car, left and right of it. And what happens, you see two times happening at the same time in front of you. What you see on the screen is it's what has happened pretty much exactly 10 seconds ago at the same spot. So you're constantly moving through these two different time zones and are seeing and comparing those two. So let's say people are crossing the street or had crossed the street 10 seconds ago. So you see on your screen, you see someone like walking right in front of the car, and so you're like, stop it, but at the same time there's no one in front of your car, you know, so it's like this collision of realities.
We did some tests in New York, and we went to the Lower East Side on a Saturday afternoon, and there it was really great. Because like so much was happening. We always went around the same block, and there is just so much activity on the street, and it's so dense that we thought like, wow, this is really like trippy, you know, like you see this, and then this happened 10 minutes before, and there was this moving truck where people put stuff into the, you know, they were putting their furniture into the truck, and there were these little narratives that kind of like developed. So then we were convinced that this is a really great idea. Then I think we did a second test upstate New York, where it's like a very desolate, not desolate area, but it's not an urban area, it's more rural. And there was nothing going on, and it was, you know, it was less spectacular, and we also had like problems with the technology. It didn't really work that well. And so we thought we have to find a balance between, or like it always depends on the site, I guess.
But that's when we did all these tests without scripting. So from then on we said, okay, we can't just rely on accidents to happen, accidents in the positive way, that like, oh, this person runs across the street and this one doesn't, and like, as Franzi said, like someone unloading a moving truck or loading it. And so we did that, but we needed, like a lot of people to check that. But I think what was even more frustrating was to get the technology to work reliably. That was really like the thing where we found like the tests which we did, like just walking around, were fairly easy and very reliable. But as soon as we moved the entire gear into a car and then drove around, it introduced like a totally different animal of problems, going back to the car being like this Faraday cage, which blocks transmission. It's all metal. Then you're driving around, you get interference with all the other Wi-Fi networks, and all of a sudden you have a red light. You can't just go on, and so it's a lot of other issues which you still have to deal with. So we have to modify each tour that we eliminate as much of that as possible.
Yeah, we have like a little cabin upstate, and we did the upstate New York. Yeah, so we did like these preparations up there, and at one point I thought like this must look like a Unibomber cabin, because like we bought all the routers, all the Wi-Fi transmitters, everything that's out there. We put it on the credit card, and Hajoe came every day with new loads of gear, and in the end we just returned it all and go the easiest way.
Simple.
Yeah, the most simple way. Yeah.
I mean, it was a super fun project to do, and that's also the predecessor to 100 Meters Behind the Future. We were invited for an exhibition which dealt with augmented reality, so you see things with your smart device which aren't there or which are superimposed on top of reality. And so we're thinking, what would be our take on that? And because we're interested in reality and something that you can experience in some way or another, and so we came up with the idea, what would happen if you can record something that is there at one point, and then we record that same place, but that object isn't there. So we're doing basically like a documentation of an augmented reality, but in our way. So you're seeing something and you're like, hold on, is that there or isn't that there? And for us, the challenge about that is also that it's in the same way how we work with land and people who we call neighbors because they live next to us. It's like, how can we like find a way to collaborate together with someone who is just like coincidentally there at that moment, or we arrived at that place coincidentally? So the cabs were just cabs who happened to drive by. They were not like scripted or, oh, can you please, like, we give you $5 and can you please drive around the corner here, we need that. It was really like, oh, there is a car, okay, this could be a good spot, or there's nothing else around there, oh, there's this cab coming, let's, tape this. And then we record this on our smartphones, and then had to wait until there was nothing else happening at that same time, at the same corner, and then reshot with the playback of the camera, reshot that very same scene, and then the video is a recording of that tracking movement of the playback device in a way. So it was really like us walking around in Taipei, looking for spaces, looking for cabs, and there were moments where there either was never a cab in itself, or there were moments where once we record the cab, there was never like, an empty space again, because there were cars, bike riders, everything in there. Come back and do another tour.
Yeah,
or participate in it.
Yeah.
I really want to see how that works. How did that go? Who did that? Like last time there was someone who got out of a tour and he couldn't believe what he had seen. He said like, this wasn't real, this was fake, you set it up. And so we got him in touch with the volunteers who helped, create the piece, who were doing all the actions. And he said, you weren't there. No, yes, it was me, who you've seen, right, a second ago. And he couldn't believe it. So, and he was there discussing it with the person he just had seen, a couple of minutes ago, out in the street doing these things. And he couldn't believe it. And that was fun, so it was like a good experience.
I think the volunteers had a great time. Like we felt kind of like, I always appreciate people's time, and so we thought like, oh, if there are 10 people who are standing on the street for 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5 hours, I hope they get something out of it. And it was really great because they became this group of people who made this street theater, because in the end we figured they're not only playing it for the people in the car, but also for the people on the street and for themselves. And they had really fun with it. And that was like a really great side effect of the piece, where we thought like, okay, cool.
We want to thank Franziska and Hajoe for speaking with us. You can find more information on E-Team at meineigenheim.org. The site has footage of many of their performances, so make sure to check out their work there. We also want to thank Carolyn Swerter and Michael A. Morris, the curators of the exhibition at Centraltrak. More information on the exhibition can be found at centraltrak.com. That's it for Art This Week. Thanks for watching.
Well, we have to do that too all the time, like when you write a grant, it's like, who's your audience? It's like, like, who's your audience? I don't know. Like, I don't want to define that. It's like, who's coming down the street? And if it's like, the curator from the MoMA, yeah, but if it's, someone who's just walking their dog, it's also good. Yeah. I don't know.